started this afternoon. Okay. So again, just on the screen there, if you don't know where your chat is, if you just hover over the top of your screen till the tool strip comes down and then click on the chat and make sure you chat into all participants so we can all see it. Okay. So on screen in front of you is some of the things that I'll be covering in today's session. But before we get started, I just want to clarify that this isn't a session saying that ActivInspire is a digital portfolio. As you know, it isn't a digital portfolio. But there are some really great ways that we can make use of learner interaction with flip chart pages that we can store away as evidence of learning that can be used in digital portfolios. So that's really the aim of what we're going to be looking at tonight, how ActivInspire can help you as one of the ways of gathering this really valuable evidence of learning in the classroom and storing that away. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at different ways that the software can be used to record learning, and then what we can do with that learning once it's recorded. So how can we export it, save it, and collect that together to be able to use? Now, our learner response systems and tools, as well as our latest software offering, ClassFlow, are some of the best ways to gather this type of evidence of progression. But I'm only going to touch very briefly on these today, and I'll direct you to where you could go to find out more about those specifically. Okay, so I'm going to cover that a little bit towards the end. So let's get started. So if we're looking at collecting documentation, then of course it's very important when we're have students working on the flip chart pages that we record when in the school year the activity has been completed. You can, of course, just write the date on the top if you wanted, or you could get learners to write the date on top of their pages by just using the text tool. But there is a way within the software that you can get this to happen automatically. So in your software settings, you're able to add a timestamp to pages. To do this, you just go to File, Settings, and here you want to click on Flip Chart Objects. Down the right here, you'll see I have the option to add timestamp to all new pages created. So I'm just going to click on that one. Okay, and click Done. Now what it won't do is it won't add that stamp onto the pages of this flip chart that I already have created in advance. Any new pages I add will now have that timestamp. So if I go up to Insert Page, I'm just going to insert a page after this so that you can see that timestamp. And what it gives me is the date that that page was created, and it gives me the time that it was created as well. Okay, so we've got our little timestamp at the top. Now what I could do is I can change that. I could alter that just by clicking in it, because it is an object, a text object. So I could go in and change that at any point. Okay. Now there are other things that you might want to prepare in advance within your software that will aid in helping to organize this valuable evidence of learning and progress that you're gathering. So getting your learners into the habit of signing the work they complete means that you can go back at the end of the day and start to collect that evidence together for individual students. Signing could literally be having them use the pen tool and writing their name next to their work, or you could get them to pull a name label onto the page. So let's have a look a little bit further at that label idea. So I'm just going to come into my browser window here and pin that so we can see it. And I'm going to go into my resource browser. And what I want to do is I need to prepare in advance. I want to set up these little labels. So going into the resources and clicking on the My Resources, what I can do is I can add my own folders in here. So you can see I have a folder here called 2015 Classes. If I click on the little plus arrow beside it, I can expand it. I now have one that says Class List. If I expand that further, I've actually got folders here for individual learners in my class, and I can just roll that back up again. To add a folder into My Resources, you just click on My Resources at the top, and I'm using the Studio Skin tonight, but this is exactly the same in the primary skin as well. So I just click on My Resources to get the little menu button up here at the right. I click on that, and then I just want to create a new folder. And then it allows me to name that folder. So I just called mine 2015 Classes, and you can see that that just puts that into your resource tree. If I want to then add in a subfolder, I just click on that main folder, and again I have that menu, and I can create another folder and give it a new name. So that's where I put in my class list. Okay, and then that starts to build up this nice little tree of folders within my resource library. So here, what I could then do is start to put in that class list of names. So here you can see I've got class list of names. And these labels that we talk about, name labels, could be in the form of just text. So if I pull that out, you can see that all that is just text on there for Thomas's name. Or I could make these nice little labels with the different colored backgrounds, so they look a little bit more label-y. And to get these in here, all I need to do is make sure that I have the folder open that I want them stored in, and then drag that and drop it, and it will put that into that folder for me. Okay, I can also use photos, so it doesn't have to be that it's just pictures. So I'm going to cover photos in a second, but I'm getting ahead of myself because what I wanted to do was on these sessions, we always like to try and show you some shortcuts and ways that you can save time within the software. So I wanted to show you what I could do with a class list, because if I have a class of 30 or 33 pupils, then that would take quite a bit of time to type all of those names out individually. So there's a really quick way of doing that. I've got my class list here in a Word document, and what I can do is I can just highlight those names, and I'm just going to copy that list and go back into my ActivInspire software. Now, if I click on the page and paste, you can see that I've taken those names directly from that Word document and put it onto a flip chart page. What I can now do is if I double click to go into that text box, so I'm now in text edit, I can highlight each individual name and pull it out. So what I'm now doing is making those individual labels. So started out with all the names in one text box and really quickly just taking them all and making them into their own individual text boxes that I can now pick up and move around. Okay, so now they're all individual objects. And what I would want to do, as I said, is get that into my class list folder, so I can just pick it up and drag it into my class list folder. Okay, so nice and quick way of getting your class lists in there. It doesn't need to take loads and loads of time to do that. Now, as I said, not only could we do labels as names, but we might actually want to use photos instead. So here we've got some little photos of some pupils in my class. So they could drag these out and have these on their work to let us know that this is something they've completed. Okay, so it can have their little images. Now, you'll notice that my little images don't have all background around it. So I've got a student in my class up here. Let's pretend that this is Jeffrey, okay? And it's got lots of background around this picture. So what I want to do is just take that bit of time to set up my folder so that I have these already, and I'm just going to use my freehand camera tool. And this is much easier to do when I'm actually at a board with a pen. I am using my laptop and mouse right now. So I'm just going to trace around him, okay, and paste that to the current page. And what that does is that just takes around all that background, and I'm just left with that learner that I'm going to use. And again, to put that in the folder, in this case, I'm just going to put it in his own individual folder. I can just pick it up and drag his picture in there. And you can see that he's now added into that folder. If you want to, clicking on it and going up to that little menu there, you could also rename that to give it the pupil's name. Okay, so I can have that store of great labels for my class list available. So my learners would get to know that when they finish an activity, they go into their folder and drag out their label, whether it's their image or their name. Now, I'm not just limited to using that, though, because there's also lots of really great online resources, many of which are free, that would allow you to make labels a bit more interesting. So, for example, if we go down to Sally, down here to her folder, maybe we could do some graffiti art. So get them to take some time to do their name in graffiti art on the computer and then save that as a label to use instead. Or create an own avatar of themselves and drag that on. So that could be their little label to say when they've completed a piece of work. Something, again, just to make it fun and get the learners involved. Okay? So now, once a learner has completed an interactive activity like this one, let's just go up to Jeffrey here. He could drag his picture onto that page so we could see that that was Jeffrey that had finished that work. Okay, if you had more than one learner up there that was completing work on the page, so for example, if you're using one of our latest multi-touch boards or an active panel, I can have up to 10 children simultaneously, 10 learners simultaneously working on the board and interacting with it. So in this case, I've had 3 learners who are working on a similar activity, all independently at the board. And what they could do then is, when they're finished, just make sure that they drag up their name there. And let's see if we can, I have to move some of my WebEx tools. So we could drag names up there to say, this is the part that I completed. And as we said, we're starting to build up that evidence, okay? But once I've got that, what do I do with that page? Because right now it's in a common flip chart. So this is where the little individual folders here come into it. So if I select, I know that Grace completed some of this work, so I'm going to click Grace's folder, and I'm just going to right-click on the page, and I can add this resource into my resource library. And so what it's then done, you can see it's put it in Grace's folder. So I'm starting to build up this collection of activities that Grace has completed and storing them away in her folder here. Michael also completed this one, so I can open Michael's folder, and I'm just going to right-click on the page and add resource to the library and stick that in there, and we can see that Michael's now completed that as well. Okay, so I'm starting to build up those individual pages that are evidence of those learners' work. Okay? Now at the end of the day, as I said, I'd want to go and do that. But the other thing is that sometimes I don't want to have them all just in ActivInspire. Okay? So what I could also do is I could have folders for my learners on my computer, on a VLE, or if you have a digital portfolio system that your school is already using, I could have these little folders for my learners here. And if I click on Michael P's, you can see I've started to build up a collection of work that they've completed. And one of them here is a flip chart. So what you can do is I could start a new flip chart for each pupil. And when I've got these pages collected here in their folder, I could drag these onto that flip chart. And now you can see I've started to collect all their pages into one location. Okay? And then I could decide that I'm going to save that. So we're going to save that as Michael P. Okay, and save that into Michael's folder. So now I've got that flip chart of evidence. If we go back to his folder, we'll see that Michael P folder is now there, okay? But I don't always want to have to open up ActivInspire to be able to view the evidence that I've collected. So what ActivInspire allows you to do is export flip chart pages, and there's several formats that you can export them to. So if you wanted to do just individual pages, I could export them as JPEGs, and that would make little JPEG images of the different pages. Or I could export a whole flip chart into a PDF, so it would be a multi-page PDF. But what that means is that we're starting to get all of these individual little pages here of evidence that I don't have to have ActivInspire, so I could share more easily with parents, for example, who don't have the ActivInspire software at home. It means that they can still see the work that has been completed. Okay. So I'm just going to move on to the next, but before I do, I'm just going to take any questions. And I think Ella says that we've got one here.
Yeah, Jennifer McKay has asked, does it take just one page of the whole chart when you're saving into one of the class lists folders?
When I saved into one of the class lists, it was taking individual pages in that case, because when I'm right-clicking on it, it's adding that page to the resource library. Okay, if I wanted to save the flip chart, then I wouldn't save the flip chart into my resource library. I would just save that as I did with Michael P's into a folder on the computer. Okay, any other questions?
No, not right now.
Okay. Right, so let's move on to have a look at a couple really great tools that come with ActivInspire that are excellent for gathering evidence, as we know. And the first one I want to look at is sound. So as we know, it's a great way of recording learner understanding, and there's loads of ways that it can be used in flip charts in different ways. So I'm just going to show you a couple pages to give you some examples of that. So the first one here is this little page from an early years class, and they've been on a visit to the local pond, and they're studying pond life. So what the teacher did when they came back to the classroom was used a digital image of the actual pond, and then had the learners come up and draw pictures on top of it that they'd seen while they were there. But also, because we're talking pre-writers here in this case, to be able to record what they saw as well. So I'm just going to click on little one here.
It turns into a tadpole, and the tadpole turns into a frog when the tadpole be swimming.
Okay, so you can see what a great evidence of learning, the knowledge that that child has to explain about the frog spawn that they saw there and how a tadpole turns into a frog. So great valuable evidence there. And in this case, we've got lots of little recordings from different students as well. Okay, so we could save that to be able to play that back. Imagine a parents' evening and having that up on your whiteboard and having the parents come up and listen to what the class have been learning. This is for a slightly older class, so a secondary drama class, and they're looking at Shakespearean plays, and in this case, Romeo and Juliet. And what the teacher's done this time is had them record themselves saying the lines of the play.
And window, let day in and let light out.
Okay, so again, great for the teacher have to be able to listen back, to hear their learners and, you know, be able to critique them and give them advice on making their dialogue even better. But also for the learners themselves to be able to listen back to hear themselves and then build on that, you know, improve their lines from listening to that sound file, okay? And the last example here, in this case, what the teacher did was they used the video recorder, which I'm going to cover in a minute, to record them answering a problem on the screen. And then the learner's job was to use the sound recorder to actually record what's happening. So they need to explain how to solve that problem or to solve whatever's happening on the screen at that time. So the sound recorder is really easy to use. To get to it, you just go to the tools. And again, it's the same on the primary interface. It's just that they'll come down at the bottom of the screen. And I want to go to more tools and the sound recorder. What I can do then is just click on that record, and it will pick up everything that I'm saying. And once I stop that, it puts that little sound icon down here at the bottom. Okay? So what it means is that that sound is now attached to that page. So if I save this page as evidence in their folder, that sound file would go with it. So if I click on that, you can hear my lovely voice saying what I recorded there. Okay? But sometimes I want to be able to make use of those files away from a flip chart. Again, being able to share with somebody who doesn't have access to ActivInspire to be able to listen to it. So I can do that. The way the software defaults is it defaults that sound files automatically get put onto a flip chart page, but I can change that. So to do that, I want to go up to File and into my settings again. And this time I'm going to choose Recordings, and right down here where it says Sound Recordings, I want to click on that little drop-down menu, and what I suggest is that you click this one here that says Both, okay? And I'm going to click Done. So now if I go into my sound recorder, and this time when I click it and record sound, it records sound as normal, but when I stop it, it's going to ask me, do I wish to save my recording? And I'm going to say, yes, I want to save it. And then it asks me where. So this is where I could then navigate into my learners folders to save it in a particular spot. If I don't want to save it and just on the flip chart page, canceling it will still put it there on the flip chart page. Okay, so I can have it both ways. So that little option there, both, is the best way to do it. I can see that there's a few questions coming in there. Is everything being answered okay on the chat, Ella? Or
yeah, I've just answered to Rebecca. She's asked about, do all boards have microphones built in, which is, it's really dependent on age and model, isn't it?
Yes, it would be age and model, but you know, you can get some really inexpensive mics that you can plug into your computer to be able to use as well if you don't have one built into your board. Okay, so there's no more questions there. I think we'll move on to video. So the ActivInspire software also comes with a brilliant video recorder. And let me just, screen recorder is what I want to say. So this allows you to record what is happening on the flip chart page. You can opt to just record an area of the screen, or you could record the whole screen. So just to show you that, I want to go into my tools and more tools and go into screen recorder. So here it gives me the option to do a full screen recorder or just an area one. So I'm just going to choose full screen. And then I get my little recording toolbar up here. If I click record, it's going to ask me to save that. And you can see it saves as an AVI. And I'm just going to click save, and we'll replace what's already there. Starts to flash blue after a couple seconds, and now it's recording. So because I have a microphone on my computer, it's recording my voice. But if I interact with the screen, anything that I'm doing on the flip chart page will also be recorded as well. Okay? If I stop that, we could then have a quick view of that back. What's already there. Starts to flash blue after a couple seconds, and now it's recording. So because I have a okay, so you can see it's recording not only what I'm doing on the screen, but it's also recording my voice. So, quite interesting. Again, brilliant for getting that learner feedback. So having learners come up and complete an activity on the board whilst it's recording and be able to file that way to show some learning. So let's have a look at a couple examples of how that could be used. So in this particular example here, I'll let it play for a second.
Starting us off. Nick, yeah, let's have a go, Nick. What you got? Just work out the area, the whole circle.
Okay, so for this one, the teacher has set the recorder during a lesson and has a problem that they're going to work through as a group on the board, and is asking for learners to jump in and explain to him exactly what the process is to solve that problem. Okay, so all of that's recording. We then have those voices recorded, and once again that can be put back as digital evidence that Nick did really well. He knew how to solve that problem. Okay, so we've got that all recorded there. Now, another teacher that I know, what she did with these little recordings was they went to their school blog and they saved these little recordings as video maths onto their school blog. So you can see these are all little video recordings just using the recorder in the primary skin of ActivInspire that other learners in the school, in the class, could go and listen to at home on their computers. Parents would be able to go on and listen to them as well. So not only is the video and sound recorders really good for collecting evidence for teachers, but it can also be used in so many different ways as well. Another school that I know used these two tools to create little help files. So they had students creating help files that went up on a VLE so that other students would be able to access them if they were having difficulty with their learning assignment at home. Okay, so quite versatile the way we can use them as well. Now what I do want to mention is that these two tools are not just available for using within Flipchart. If we go to my desktop tools, I actually have that video recorder in my desktop tool as well. So I can have them video things that they're doing on other applications outside of the ActivInspire software as well, and still be able to capture that valuable commentary as well as the interaction on the screen and save that as evidence. Okay, just before I move on, I'm going to ask if there's any other questions.
Yeah, just one about file type. So sound, I think we saw there, is it .wav WAV
Yes,
file?
sound saves as a WAV file, so a .wav, and the screen recorder saves as a .avi file.
Thank you.
Okay. Right, so we're almost there. Thank you for hanging in there. I hope that this information is useful and that there's stuff that you're going to be able to take back and use. So just to finish off, I want to have a little word about our learner response systems and class flow. So one of the best ways to gather evidence of progress that Promethean has to offer is through the use of our learner response systems. An explanation to do them justice, however, would be a full webinar in itself. And in fact, we have already led several sessions covering their use in previous webinars. If you're interested in finding out more, what I would suggest you do is follow this little bit.ly link. And remember that we are recording this. You will be sent a recording afterwards. So if you don't have a chance to write it down now, you can get it from the recording afterwards. Okay, so we have done several webinars on the use of active expression in particular, so I would suggest that you have a look at some of those if you're interested in finding out more. Okay. I also just wanted to take a minute to mention class flow. So when ActivInspire 2.0 was first introduced, this was the first link that we saw to our new software offering, Class Flow, linking in with our current software offering, ActivInspire. And what this does is it allows me to use a functionality of class flow that enables student devices to be connected into an ActivInspire lesson. So instead of having to go out and purchase active expression, if you did have student tablets or laptop or computers already in your school, this now enables you to be able to connect those devices to your ActivInspire lesson, and it allows you to do questioning in a similar fashion that you would with active expression. So what you would do to do that is just click on the class flow at the top, and you can see I'm already logged in. If I wasn't, it would ask me to log into my class flow account. If I didn't have a class flow account, there would be a link there that would allow me to sign up for my class flow account for free. And then that means that I would link the two in together, okay? So on my student devices, they would be using the ClassFlow app or the student URL, and they would connect to my lesson using the code on the screen there. And what that would then allow me to do is to send out questions, just like I would to active expression devices, only it would be coming to their tablets, their laptops, or their computers instead. Again, so making use of the devices that are already currently in the schools. Okay, so there's that option to you as well. What I could also do is share individual flip chart pages, although you can't interact with them, but I could still send that information out onto student devices to be able to look at more clearly as well. And the other thing that I could do is coming up, and so I was hoping I was going to be able to show you this in this session, but unfortunately I got this one scheduled a little bit before the release date of the next version of the next upgrade of our ActivInspire software. And what that's going to allow us to do is to be able to use the ClassFlow Teacher app to take a photograph and automatically put it on a flip chart page. So imagine wandering around your classroom, students are working in a more traditional way on work at their desks. Somebody has something fantastic you want to share with the rest of the class. The teacher can just use their device to quickly take a photograph and put that right onto a flip chart page. Then we can then take that and save it away as evidence of that learner's contributions in the class as well. Okay, so just before I finish up, I saw a couple questions come in there, so I'm just going to pop over to Ella in case they haven't been answered.
Yeah, got some nice feedback from Jennifer about the laws of active open expressions.
They are brilliant, yes.
Also, Sama said expression is great for maths. And Patty wanted to know how is it different from Engage, but you've already kind of covered that, I think. But
yeah, so they're all part of the learner response family, so they're all different ways of doing similar things. Class Flow works slightly different than ActivEngage because it connects into our Class Flow website. Okay, if you want to find out more information about that, and probably a really good way of finding out how they differ with Engage as well, is just to have a look at that bit.ly link here underneath the Class Flow that I've put that talks about the Class Flow plugin, and this will give you some more information around how to use the Class Flow plugin within ActivInspire as well. Okay, so I would recommend that you do have a look there. Well, I think that I've managed to cover everything that I wanted to tonight pretty much in the allocated time. So, I've got one more question before I finish up.
so he wants to know, can we save videos MP4?
It saves it as a .avi file, but there are video conversion websites out there that will allow you to convert it to an MP4.
Yeah. ClassFlow sounds fantastic. This is Jennifer again. Will you be doing a webinar on using ClassFlow and sending images to a flip chart?
Yes, we are going to be doing more around Class Flow, certainly in the next coming months, but definitely after the summer holidays as well. So do watch out for that. But you can already view some of that information on the Class Flow YouTube channel. So if you have a look there, there's a whole playlist on using the Class Flow plugin. As I said, using the teacher app to take a photograph and put it onto a flip chart page isn't available yet, but that will be coming out, I'm told, beginning of April. So once that's out, we'll probably start to do some stuff around that functionality as well. Okay. So just to finish off, please remember that Promethean provides lots of support to help you get more familiar with your software. And as always, most useful is Promethean Planet. So if you're not already a member, I highly recommend that you go to the website and join up now. Remember, it is free of charge, and the bulk of the resources on there are free of charge to be able to download and use as well. Just to finish off, my contact details and our Twitter handles are on screen now. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to get in touch. And as always, as I said, this session has been recorded and you will be sent an email with a link to the recording in the next couple of days. Thank you very much for joining us.